guys, welcome back to another one. If you're new to this channel, I am Gold Pony. I do new car, truck, SUV reviews on YouTube, and today we are in the brand new 2026 Nissan Kicks, courtesy of Younger Nissan in Frederick, Maryland. For more information on their inventory, please feel free to check out the link in the description box below. So today we're in this one because this is a very affordable crossover. All-wheel drive is actually available as well. We actually have an all-wheel drive model with us here today. And in case you were curious, the Kicks competes with the Honda HR-V, Hyundai Kona, and Chevy Trax, just to name a few. So ultimately in this video, we will be testing out and going over everything about this one, from acceleration to braking, steering feel, ride quality, sound system, exhaust clip, all that fun stuff. So having said all of that, what do you guys say? Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, let's start with pricing. And so as you can imagine, there are a few different trim levels for the 2026 Kicks. First one being the S, starting at $22,430. By the way, that's a $600 bump for the 2026 model year. You got the SV starting at $24,170, and lastly the SR being the one we are in today. This one starts at $27,265. By the way, that was all pricing for the front wheel drive configuration. If you wanted to add all-wheel drive, you can do that. Simply add $1,500 then to any of those prices. But regardless of the trim level that you go with, the power plant on the Kicks is going to be the same. Powering the little beast is a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder that puts out 141 horsepower at 6,000 RPM, 140 pound-feet of torque coming in at 4,000 RPM. Power is going to be sent to the front wheels or all wheels through a CVT. 0 to 60 time approximately 9.5 seconds. We're going to be testing that out here in a little bit. MPG numbers then coming in at 28 in the city, 35 on the highway, taking regular unleaded fuel. And I actually just gassed this one up, and right now it's telling me I have 287 miles until empty, just in case anybody was curious about that. All right, and so before we do any kind of fun acceleration here in the Kicks, I did want to mention to you guys the drive modes. And so there is a silver toggle switch located kind of just to the right of the shifter there. Drive modes will include Sport, Standard, Eco, and Snow, adjusting things like the shift points, the throttle response, and the steering sensitivity. So now having got all of that out of the way, what do you guys say? Let's go ahead and find it straight away. Let's put the acceleration here to the test, and let's see how quickly we can get our new 2026 Nissan Kicks here up to speed. All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Definitely tell it's a CVT. And it's not the quickest thing in the world either, but it's to be expected. It's one of those cars where the more you drive it, the more you get used to, and the more you get used to the acceleration and all that fun stuff. It's not as slow as the Mitsubishi Mirage or anything like that, but it's not the quickest thing either. Having said that, the sport driving mode does help. It holds the RPMs at a much higher level, giving you more power on demand. So there is the sport driving mode maybe for merging, and it's super easy to change the drive modes. You just tap the toggle switch up for sport and tap it back for standard. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if you know you're merging onto the highway, maybe just go ahead and tap it up in sport driving mode. Still, not the quickest thing in the world, and the CVT doesn't really simulate an automatic. Not that that's a big deal, it just really feels like a CVT. I'll just put it that way. But anyways, to go along with that acceleration, as always, braking is equally important. And so, as expected, 4-wheel disc brakes do come standard. As far as that 60-0 stopping distance goes, comes in at 127 feet. As far as braking feel goes here, it's actually really good. What was that, my keys? It doesn't feel like 127 feet. It actually feels better than that. Like, it's a wonderful braking feel. Not a super firm braking feel, but it's not a soft braking feel either. It feels really good, actually. So I don't have an issue with the braking there. Then touching on suspension and handling. In front, you're gonna get an independent strut type front suspension. In the back, semi-independent torque and beam rear axle, front and rear stabilizer bars. As far as ride quality goes, as we're cruising over this bridge right now, I will say you do tend to feel a little bit more of the road, if I'm being honest. Typically with compact and subcompact SUVs, that is a thing. So you're going to feel a little bit more of the road than if you were to get a larger SUV like the Nissan Rogue, let's say. As far as steering feel goes, so we're about to turn in here. It's okay. It is adjustable depending upon the drive mode that you put it in. So there is a little bit of something for everybody there. So I do like that. But having said that, it maybe is a little bit on the looser side of things, but that's pretty much to be expected in really any SUV. As far as cabin noise goes, we're going 25 miles per hour right now, but it's not that bad. Honestly, it's nothing that would bother me. I would be perfectly fine with it. And touching our rear visibility, looking out my rear view mirror here, I can see perfectly fine out the back, honestly. And because of the shape of the Kicks, you really shouldn't have any issues with rear visibility. So that is perfectly on point as well. But that pretty much rounds out the performance segment of this review, guys. Let's still go find a cool spot in the park here, and let's take a look at the exterior now of our brand new 2026 Nissan Kicks. All right, so here she is, you guys, the new 2026 Nissan Kicks, finished in a white and black color combination, which I think looks pretty dang good. But as always, let's go ahead and start with where the Kicks is made. Taking a look at the VIN, first character is the number 3 actually, which means this one is built and assembled in Mexico. Starting up front, full LED headlights do come standard for all trim levels across the board, meaning both low beam and high beam, so that's pretty cool. Automatic feature as well, along with automatic high beams. So if you have your high beams on at night and it senses a vehicle coming in the opposite direction, it's going to automatically dim them back to low beams, and when that vehicle is gone, it's going to automatically bounce them back up to high beams for you there. You do have that SR badging found in the upper portion of that front grille. If you go with the SR trim level, of course, that looks pretty darn good. Very nice sporty look. That pretty much rounds out the front end of the Kicks. Let's now go ahead and swing around to the side. All right, zooming out since we are around to the side of this one. Floating roof line found towards the back there. That's going to be on that C-pillar. And actually, let me get up a little bit closer because there is something I wanted to show you guys on that C-pillar there. You do have this Kicks lettering kind of spelled out within the C-pillar, so I thought that was pretty darn cool. Nice little attention to detail there, so good job Nissan for that. Power adjustable side mirrors do come standard. They will be heated with the SR all-wheel drive like we have with us here today, so that's pretty cool. And then you get integrated turret signals for the SR trim level then as well. Then taking a look down at the wheel setup, they're going to differ dependent upon the trim level, believe it or not. 16-inch steel wheels with covers for the S trim level, 17-inch steel wheels with covers for the SV, and then 19-inch aluminum alloys for the SR. However, we do actually have some optional alloys with us here today, and this wheel setup is dang good looking. By the way, it's a $620 option, I think it was, which is well worth it to me because I think they look dang good. Definitely the best looking wheel configuration for the Nissan Kicks for sure. So a lot of times wheel configurations go for like $1,000, $2,000. So $620 really isn't that bad for this. So anyways, that pretty much rounds out the side profile. Let's now go ahead and swing around to the back. All right, so now since we are around to the back of the Kicks, starting all the way to the top, you got a gloss black shark fin antenna. Just below that, rear spoiler with an integrated brake light. You got the rear window wiper affixed to the rear glass, of course, as well. LED taillights do come standard for all trim levels across the board. I like that. You're going to find that all-wheel drive badging found on the rear liftgate if the Kicks that you go with does have all-wheel drive, of course, so that's pretty cool as well. If you ever wander onto a lot on a Sunday, the trim level badging and the all-wheel drive badging is going to be found on that rear liftgate in case you were curious. But then just below it all, there is a single exhaust outlet kind of tucked away underneath on the driver's side there. So having said that, I do believe you guys know what we have to do next here. As always, here is that exhaust clip. So now since we are around to the back of the Kicks here, when it comes to opening that rear lift gate, it is a manual lift gate for all trim levels across the board. However, there are a few different ways to go ahead and unlock it. There's a button on the key fob, of course. There's actually a rubberized button on the lift gate itself to go ahead and open it up then as well. But once opened up, cargo capacity is actually going to differ dependent upon the trim level that you go with, believe it or not. The S is going to give you the most space, coming in at 30 cubic feet, and then 29.2 cubic feet for the SV front wheel drive and SR front wheel drive. Then the all-wheel drive is going to give you the least, coming in at 23.9 cubic feet then. But of course there is a 60-40 split, meaning the rear seats do fold down for quite a bit of extra space then if you needed it. You actually have grocer bag hooks on both sides in the cargo area back there, so I love seeing those. There's some tie-down anchors back there as well. Then if you were to lift up underneath of that cargo floor, you will find a decent amount of in-floor storage, which I always love to see. Then making our way up to the rear legroom, that is going to come in at 34.5 inches. For reference, I'm even 6 feet tall. This is how much space I had in the rear seats there. No rear ventilation, unfortunately. However, there is some USB charging ports that I found back there, so I thought that was pretty cool. Also, rear center armrest with cup holders. Also something I don't remember seeing in the last Kicks that I reviewed last year. So that is pretty cool that I found them this year. But anyways, then making our way up to the front seats, cloth seating for the S trim level, premium cloth for the SV, and then a leatherette for the SR that we have with us here today. Manually adjustable front seats for all trim levels across the board. Heated front seats like we have with us here today, they're going to be optional for the SV and the SR trim level. So an option that comes with the heated steering wheel, I'll have you know as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As far as seat comfort goes, it was okay. I think power adjustable seats obviously would be a little more comfortable, but the manually adjustable seats, they got the job done. So I don't have any issues with that. Cool thing is with the seats, I'm gonna show you guys this real quick, is some of the Bose speakers are built into the headrest. You guys can see that Bose Personal Plus badging found on the sides of the headrest up here. We'll test out the sound system in a little bit here, but I did want to mention that to you guys. That's kind of cool. But then taking a look at the steering wheel, it is tilt and telescoping. It's going to be urethane wrapped for the S and SV, and then leather wrapped for the SR trim level. And again, a heated steering wheel is optional. We got that option with us here today, so I love that. But now let's go ahead and make our way to the startup. Let me start by showing you guys the key here. You got your Nissan logo all the way to the top, lock, unlock, and that circular button is going to be your remote start, which is pretty cool as well. I like that. So you can warm this thing up on super cold days like today. But it is all keyless entry with a push button start. So all I'm going to do here is simply put my foot on the brake and press that engine start button located kind of just in front of the shifter there. And so once started up, when it comes to the gauges, there's going to be two different gauge clusters. You're going to find a 7-inch digital gauge cluster for the S and SV trim levels, and then a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster for the SR. So you guys are looking at the SR 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster here, and it looks pretty darn good if you ask me. I don't have any issues with it, and I do like that there is some customization to it actually as well. So there's 3 little lines on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. If you press that and then go to change meter view, it essentially gives you 2 different looks. There's one look where it just has the speedometer front and center, and then there's more of a traditional look, I guess you can call it, with the tachometer on your left, speedometer on your right. So that's another option as well. So I'm a big fan of those gauges. I like that there's a little bit of customization. Some of the competitors have a little bit more with the different colors and things like that, but they did a pretty darn good job with the gauges overall, so I don't have any issues with that. Still gives you your outside temperature. There's speed limit recognition up there as well, how many miles you have left until you hit empty, chirp A, chirp B, obviously. So gauges are definitely done quite well. I don't have any issues with those. But now let's go ahead and make our way to overall interior quality. And let me start with the coolest part. Dual pane panorama roof is going to be optional for the SV and the SR, another option that we have with us here today. You guys can see why I picked this one out today. It's got all the options. Anyways, auto dimming rear view mirror is going to come with the electronics package if you wanted that. Another cool thing I like about the Kicks, and I remember this from last year, is the seat fabric is going to be used on the dash here. So just above the passenger side glove box, just underneath the infotainment screen, there's this nice texturized seat fabric kind of design there, so I was a big fan of that. A lot of contrast stitching as well, this orange and white contrast stitching. Perhaps that's just for the SR trim level. Got this nice orange finish surrounding the shifter here as well. Speaking of, just in front of the shifter, it looks like there is a wireless phone charger there, so that is pretty cool. Got an electromechanical parking brake there as well. Everything surrounding the shifter, they could have just left that in a matte gray or black plastic, although it is still plastic, but it's a nice texturized design to it. So for that reason, it's a little more high end. So I commend Nissan for that, because a lot of the competitors are not doing that still, even though I say it in all my videos. But anyways, I do like those finishes. You got a couple cup holders just behind there, and then within the center armrest, probably the least amount of space within a center armrest that I've ever seen, but there's a 12-volt power outlet in there, so that is kind of cool. But overall, honestly, I think Nissan did a pretty darn good job with the interior quality. All the places where they could have left it boring with the matte black plastic or something like that, they finished with the texturized design. There's kind of a carbon fiber-ish look on the doors here as well, silver door handles instead of a matte finish again. So they did a pretty darn good job. I actually don't have any issues. And there's an overhead sunglass holder. I don't want to forget to mention that, because that is the best part. Anyways, let's now go ahead and take a look at the infotainment screen here. 7-inch color touchscreen display for the S trim level, 12.3-inch color touchscreen display for the SV and the SR. Either way, you get Bluetooth and audio streaming, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. However, it is going to be wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay if you were to go with that 12.3-inch screen at least. You can, of course, adjust your climate control settings up there. There's your heated seat buttons. There's actually your heated steering wheel button. I see that up there as well, so that is pretty cool. I like that. And there's just an overall really nice look to it. It's pretty darn quick as well and responsive, so I liked that too. And of course, you got your radio information up there as well. So when it comes to the sound systems, there are 2 of them. One of them comes standard on all trim levels, which is a 4-speaker sound system, but there is an option, yet again, an option we have with us here today, which is a 12-speaker Bose sound system. So having said that, we do have that one, like I said, with the headrest and all that, speakers in the headrest. So let's go ahead and turn on the radio. Let's see what we got playing this morning, and let's test out the clarity of this one.
Another senorita, you forgot that I need you.
It's not bad. Like, it's better than I thought it would be, honestly. The bass is pretty darn good. Bose is an extremely reputable company, by the way, as well. Of course, you probably already know that. They've been around for forever, so it's definitely going to be a reliable sound system. It's pretty darn good for what this vehicle is, I'll just put it that way. But anyways, last thing I wanted to mention to you guys on that infotainment screen is when you do put the Kicks in reverse, you will find a rear view camera coming standard across the board. You actually also get a panoramic view monitor there to the right as well, which looks amazing, giving you that bird's eye view, letting you know what is completely all around you, which is always going to lead us into safety. And so front side current airbags do come standard. You get driver and passenger knee airbags up front as well. In the back, you got latch, aka lower anchors and tethers for children for the rear car seats, rear child door locks, tire pressure monitoring system, but also coming standard, brake assist, hill start assist, blind spot warning, lane departure warning, driver attention alert, rear parking sensors. You almost never find that standard. That's pretty cool. And adaptive cruise control, of course, as well. So overall, when it comes to my final thoughts here of the Kicks, very affordable. I love the starting price being only $22,000 and some change. So that's pretty remarkable these days. I love that all-wheel drive is available as well, because the competitors can't always say that. Take, for example, the Hyundai Kona or the Kia Soul was another one I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, but is a competitor to this. So that's pretty cool that all-wheel drive is available. Very fun design as well. It's a very unique styling, so I think it looks good personally. Also love the naturally aspirated engine. So many engines these days are turbocharged. Like they could have very easily put a turbocharged 3-cylinder into this thing like they do with the Rogue and so many other of their vehicles, and like a lot of the competition does now as well, but they kept it a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which traditionally is going to be more reliable than the turbocharged counterparts. So for that reason, I love it as well. I can do without like 1 or 2 miles per gallon extra for better reliability. That's just my personal opinion. But the only thing I think I would change, honestly, because they did a pretty darn good job with the Kicks, if I'm being honest, is a spare tire. I think I would forgo the in-floor storage that we have in the cargo area and replace that with the spare tire. I personally prefer that. I've had to change spare tires plenty of times on the side of the highway, and it's just convenient to have. Rather than having to call a tow truck, you just change a spare tire in less than 5 minutes, go back to the dealership, and then get it fixed or replaced. So anyways, let me know what you guys think of the Kicks in the comment section below them. But that's about it for this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to follow me on social media stuff if you wanted to see what's coming next on the channel before it gets to YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe, the bell notification button if you're into new car reviews. That is what I've been doing for 11 years now. I do appreciate you guys watching more than you know, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Stay gold.
It's not reality.